Well, welcome back to Timeout Tuesday. Today we're calling it Self-Care Tuesday, and we need to connect with you. So everybody should know me by now, Pastor P, and I'm here with Jessica Square. So I'm going to give you all a chance, I love saying that, to introduce yourselves and tell them a little bit about you.
Hey, everyone. I'm Jessica Jones, the owner of Grace Counseling and Consulting in Hernando, Mississippi. I'm a licensed professional counselor and here if you ever need me.
Hey guys, I'm Jessica Reed. I'm the owner of Reed Counseling and Consulting Services. We are located here on Getwell, really close to the church, and we're excited about seeing new clients. We offer some parenting groups right now, which is new. I don't think I said that before. We see individual, family, and couples, and we have a large framework in trauma and even self-care, which we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely. Thank you all for being a part of Self-Care Tuesday. For those out there that are watching, I need you to put your questions in the comments.
Yes.
You can even email your comments, your concerns, topics to pastorpetty@brownbaptist.org. We want to hear from you so we can make it relevant. Okay? So we'll jump right in. So I took off, last month. So
welcome back.
Thank you. Look, I believe this is the part where y'all give them the great disclaimer.
Oh, yes. So
go for it.
Although Self-Care Tuesday, Timeout Tuesday will be very informative and we'll talk about all things mental health related, this is not a replacement and cannot be served as actual therapy. Even though we are licensed therapists, we are not the viewer's therapist, but we are happy to either work with you or offer referrals for other therapists that can work with you.
And we're in the comments while this is airing. So if you need referrals, comment. We will provide an email address. If you have any questions for us, just let us know. Reach out and let us know.
Yeah.
And so tonight we're kind of talking about self-care. All right.
Yes.
So my job is to come with I'm the male Oprah Winfrey of this thing. Okay. All right. So my first question is, so I hear self-care all the time, but before we talk about what self-care is, please explain what self-care is not.
So my first thought, right, is self-care is not selfish. And sometimes there's a guilt associated with taking care of yourself. And, you think, okay, I'm supposed to do and be for everyone else, and we're not filling up our cups. So it's not being selfish for you to take care of yourself and take the necessary steps of taking care of yourself. So that's what's coming to my mind. I'm going to pass it off to you.
Yeah, I agree. Self-care is not selfish. I think if we think about how trendy self-care or the idea of taking care of ourselves has been, it feels like something to do that we don't have like an innate right. Like everybody has self-care just like they have mental health. Like even little babies like need to be taken care of. And so I would say that self-care is not expensive. And we'll get more into that, right?
Nice.
And self-care is a basic right. Taking care of yourself or allowing yourself to be taken care of is a form of self-care.
Wow. See, so I can tell my wife that trip to Cancun is not necessarily self-care, is what you're saying?
Well, we didn't say that.
Y'all watching out for Sister Petty.
There are parts of, I think, traveling that are enjoyable for different people in different ways and therapeutic.
Okay.
However, I think when we think about self-care, anything you do that you enjoy or is a form of taking care of yourself can be considered that.
Gotcha.
So if that, for your wife, if traveling is a way that she takes care of herself, then that might be a form of self-care for her.
Okay.
However, if it creates stress, like going to Cancun now creates a financial stressor, then it's probably not going to be self-care, right?
Self-care Rita. We're going to log that as vacation.
Yes, that's vacation. Sometimes it can be avoidance. We just need a change of scenery, but we'll get into all of that tonight. So.
Got you. So we kind of know what is not. What is self-care? All right. So I know you kind of already answered it, but maybe go a little deeper. Like, what is self-care? What can I do for self-care?
So aside from what I mentioned, the definition of self-care is really just taking the time to do anything you enjoy, anything you do consistently that you enjoy or is a form of taking care of yourself. So when we do that consistently, we can use it to reduce stress, deal with unpleasant or uncomfortable emotions, right? it can also be a way that we prioritize things that we know we need to do. Like basic hygiene is a form of self-care. Going to the doctor and making regular appointments is a form of self-care. Eating the right foods is a form of self-care. So literally anything that you like to do, which is why I think it's important to know the things that make you happy and you experience, I think, and explore those things, because it changes over time. Like things that made me happy 10 years ago, I don't enjoy them in the same way now. So you have to, I think, also be really flexible with what care looks like for you.
Yeah. I would say self-care is taking care of yourself, not only mentally, but like Jessica said, physically as well. Eating healthy, making sure we're going to those checkups for our bodies. You know, we just had a discussion about high blood pressure, checking in on those things, and just doing something that you really enjoy. And it could be very simple. It could be taking time to read a chapter of a book a day. If you got small kids in there, it may be a chapter of a book a week. But if that's
like
your
thing, dinner,
if that's your thing, then you find a way to just have those little moments so that we are refilling our cup. And so we don't feel that sense of burnout that we previously spoke about. Because we are in this rat race of life. And so we have to find a way to just slow it down. Take a moment, and breathe.
Yeah. And I think if we tie this into what we talked about, like our episodes try to build on themselves. And like when we talked about depression, we talked about managing some levels of depression by prioritizing self-care. So when you think about self-care, a few minutes is better than no minutes, right? So what I tell my clients is slice it thinner. If I want to read a book, a lot of people like they want to read a book a month, and you only got 60 seconds, that 60 seconds, remember, again, consistently is better than you not doing anything that whole month. Think about if I read for 60 seconds for a whole month, I'm going to have more pages read than somebody who picks up the book, don't pick it up at all. So I think it's being really flexible with yourself, but meeting you where you are. So the end goal might be, I'm going to read a book a month, but starting off, it might be 3 pages, whatever works for you. Like you're the only person that can really set the stage for what your self-care looks like, which I hope we'll get into talking about. Like you can't let anybody else make that premise for you. And a good form of self-care is setting boundaries that protect you taking care of yourself.
Oh, wow. So yeah, I'm gonna jump into that. So what are those boundaries to take care of yourself? Explain that a little deeper for people like myself.
So, for instance, a boundary may be, I need 30 minutes to myself to debrief each day. And that may look different. It may be 30 minutes to drive home from work to home. You're listening to your favorite songs or something uplifting so that you're taking that time. Because sometimes, realistically, if you have younger kids, you can't just say, you know what, I'm at home, I got 30 minutes, don't talk to me. That don't work. But if you could have some quiet time on your drive home, or maybe after the little ones are asleep and now the house is a little peace and quiet and you can have some time to unwind. So setting that boundary, another boundary may be, like you said, slicing things thinner. Okay, well, an hour of reading is kind of overwhelming for me. So let me slice it thinner, and then setting that for yourself and making sure those around you know this and they're respectful of you taking that time to take care of yourself.
Yeah, because when I made the statement, what I was thinking mostly about is self-care does not require permission or obligation from anybody else other than yourself. And also it's a way that you know you have needs and you deserve to have needs. So going from what you mentioned, if it's overwhelming and you're beating yourself where you are, that's great. But honestly, a boundary is whatever protects you to get those things done. So if it's, you know what, I need that 30 minutes, then maybe I'm going to tag in my support system to make sure that I can get this done. Or, if I feel like self-care is a form of protection. So these reading books, music, nature are building blocks that help us deal with stress a little bit better. So when we protect those, it's more likely that we can navigate the challenges of life and they don't feel as heavy. So it's really, it's essential. It's not something that people choose to do or you get to do if you're in a certain status quo. Like every person needs to find a way to take care of themselves that they enjoy and they can consistently do it. You might not be able to consistently read for an hour, but if you can do consistently another amount, like that's what works. Like really choosing what works for you.
Yeah.
So let me get this straight. I want to make sure, when I come home and tell all the great things I learned, I want to make sure I'm accurate. So when I had a very stressful day at work, the 32 minutes I sit in the parking lot of my house or the driveway, that's all right. That's good self-care.
It's good self-care if you communicate that boundary to protect that habit. So your family and friends and wife, they know that is a way that you are taking care of you so you can come home and take care of them, right? So like I need 30 minutes to decompress to be able to receive all the demands when I walk in the door.
That's what I was going to say.
It gives you a minute to switch gears, take off your work hat and put on daddy hat, put on husband hat, put on mommy hat, whatever those things are. Yeah, I think that can be really helpful.
How do those 32 minutes feel when you're in?
They're the best minutes of the day.
Right. Don't they get you back to you, right? They bring you home.
Self-care. You can go in the house a whole new person.
Right. Yes. And when I was younger, I think I used to take work on into the house because, you got things to do. But now, and I know 32 minutes, but it's 32 minutes of just whatever I need to do to just calm down, maybe even talk to a few different people. Ministry works too. But I need them. And my kids know, my wife, that, they'll see me. I'm not really doing anything. Sometimes just reading the Bible, but I just don't want to take today into the house. You know what I mean? So
that's a good way to protect yourself and your family. That's an act of love, right? Like I love y'all so much that like I don't want to come in and not be my best self or be short-tempered. I know the kind of day I had, so I'm a ground to come back to me. Then I can like be in a better space to hear all the things that might make me feel a little bit more short-tempered if I didn't. So those are some golden 32 minutes. Protect those
That's
minutes.
What I was thinking. That's the perfect example of self-care.
Okay. And
again, it's inexpensive.
It is.
That's free.
It's simple.
Yeah.
We don't have to make it complicated at all.
But we do have to make it flexible, right? So like, let's say, if we're taking your experience, and I hope your wife is okay with us going deep because you done put it out there. But say you need those 32 minutes, but she also needs you as soon as you get home. Then there might be some flexibility where if you don't take it on the front end, you take it after dinner, you take it before night, but you still the priority is I'm going to take 32 minutes after work. Now, however you put it in, is on you, but that's still protecting and making it a habit. So everybody knows at some point in the night, daddy going to disconnect for 30 minutes and
he's going to be back. He's going to be back.
See, well, that helps because I think so often, I think we were talking about the other day, sometimes we don't like to say I need help or I need anything. But that also kind of transition us to some things that are happening, even in the work area. So I'm, almost 20 years as a banker, even though I'm a minister, right? And so how we used to be in banks, nothing like we are now. So taking on a new initiative, trying to, pour into my community. And one of the things that we're intentional about is a decompression room.
Yes.
Inside of the branch. And I always joke with them, they need a break from me. But what are your thoughts on just those things? A couple of chairs, nice plants, maybe some, aromatherapy.
Yes. I love it. It don't take much. And I think a lot organizations, corporations, and schools are really adopting that. And you can tell the difference. Like in schools now, they have the Zen rooms where kids and teachers, I have a lot of clients that do their therapy in the Zen room at work. So it's a space away from the natural environment that might cause me stress that I can step away and protect me emotionally or mentally. So it doesn't take much. You get you a diffuser, maybe dim the lights or a lamp or something.
A nice chair.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Put you some YouTube music on. There you go.
Okay.
Of course, there are, this ain't about like self-care, but there might be funds or things that are available for that to be a need because that'll help you guys be more effective in your work performance, in your work relationships. And self-care is in all forms of your life. So your self-care for your family will look different. Your self-care in the workplace. It will look different as with your family and with your friends. And so knowing that are also other ways to have boundaries in the different parts of your lives.
So I might be forward thinking and didn't know it because when they brought the idea, I said, hey, I don't know. I never needed one, but let's do it. So I'm kind of footing half the bill.
Yeah.
Because I just want to see if it's something that we can do because although banking is not very stressful for me, what I'm finding out for new bankers, banking is extremely stressful.
I can imagine.
And it's never been stressful for me. I just always been good at it, but that's kind of the new trend. So now.
Because you imagine the benefits of having an employee that is experiencing some stress, and it may be from work-related stress or something outside of work, and they can take 15 minutes to just go in and say, you know what? Let me just reset. Right. And they come back in and be their most productive self.
Mm-hmm. Instead of holding that in, and then it impacts their relationships with the clients or each other. I think you definitely want to think about the things you want to track. Maybe 1 or 2 things, like what do we want to see that's improved after using this room? Okay. And get like a post and a pre. But a lot of companies do that. Some people hire therapists or yoga instructors, all kinds of people to come in once a month to like either offer or have something. But even if you just have the tools, giving, I think, the employees the permission to like de-stress is powerful in itself. Like I know that if I need to take this cape off in a workday, I can do that.
Right.
I think that's really valuable in the workforce when you deal with people. In banking, you deal with so many people throughout the day. And you deal with money. Do you know how triggering that can be for people?
Apparently.
Yes, I can only imagine. So definitely keep us posted on the Zen room.
We're going to try it out and see. We're going to try it out and see. So let me transition then. So we kind of talked about it at the workplace. We talked about what self-care maybe is not and what can be self-care. How does that look in ministry work though? Mm-hmm. Because I hear burnout. I think you gave me an article. I think was it difference between
vicarious trauma.
Yeah, vicarious trauma.
Passion fatigue.
Passion fatigue.
All the things.
Burnout versus just needing a vacation or stress. And so I'm in the last 5 minutes. I'm gonna just bag up. I ain't got nothing to say. Y'all can just let them know. All right, y'all heard it here first.
Before we move into the ministry part, there are 2 things that I was thinking about when you said what self-care isn't. That I want to make sure we know. Self-care is not unhealthy coping skills, right? So like you might feel good with your bottle.
Hold on. You gotta look into that camera and say that.
Unhealthy activities is not self-care.
We're not telling you to down the bottle.
Right?
Amen.
So, there's a cost to certain things that are unhealthy and they can't count as self-care. People say it all the time. Yeah. Like, I'm about to go get this and that's going to help me, or I'm going to eat this. Like, you need to know that it is comforting and soothing, but it is not self-care. And powerful. Self-care is something that you do even when you feel good. Most of us, we do it in the moment of challenge. We feel good, we stop. Consistency is key. That's where the magic is. Even when you feel good, don't stop. We say this in therapy. When therapy is going well, that don't mean you. Sometimes it means you're ready to graduate, but sometimes it means you're now in a stable place where you can lean in and do some real work. So when you have a good form of self-care, I think it can be really helpful in making sure those habits stay healthy. And so maybe we need to talk about in the future some unhealthy ways. But drinking and different things are not
smoking.
Not forms of self-care. They make us feel good, but they're not
going
forms
to endorse that.
No.
So what I have,
overeating all this.
What I have in my mind that I wanted to make sure that we share is the lack of self-care. That could lead to depression. Physical illnesses. When we don't take care of ourselves, our body will let us know.
Right.
And our bodies will definitely let us know. Yeah. And so it is very important to practice self-care. Like we said, not in those times that we feel stress, but also in the times that we feel good. Yeah. So that we continue to have the skills. Like you said, when we practice self-care, so when we do experience stress, we can handle it a little better. Yeah. We can ride those waves a little better.
And when you think about from a spiritual standpoint, so for a lot of people, spirituality and religion is a form of self-care.
Okay.
Yes. It absolutely is. Reading my Bible, praying, connecting with a sense of community, coming to church, singing. All of those things are forms of self-care. If we go back to one of the episodes where we talked about a lot of people doing the same things, then that isn't a space for, I think, the person to reflect and set some boundaries around what's their true limit around serving. What's the quality of serving? Because sometimes we can be on 10 ministries. We're not active on any of them, right?
Yeah.
But we saying we are part, we do a little bit, but like leaning into like what is most, I think, valuable and passionate about and like being the best part of you in that. Like I think when I first started, I did different ones and then you kind of find your niche. And when you find that, you just keep leaning into that and it feels more efficient. I think you get more gratitude out of that. And so from a spiritual place, I think spirituality in itself is a form of self-care.
Definitely.
So, and y'all heard them say there's certain things you cannot call self-care. Notice that didn't come from Pastor P, all right? That was my disclaimer. But as we kind of wrap up, And we talked about it from the spiritual. We talked about it even at work. And I do, some of the previous episodes really help. And I know I'm bringing this back up, the vicarious trauma. And what was the other one? The compassion
fatigue.
Yeah. And I know this part, self-care. Look, I'm going on record now saying self-care Tuesday, number 2 is coming. Because I think we need some more time on this. But when we look at those two things, what are we seeing? Maybe not just in the church, but as a society with those two specifically. Because a lot of people reached out to me about this vicarious trauma.
Yeah. Well, so when we think about those things as symptoms of stress, because that's what they are, long-term stress, for a lot of people, they don't have enough either education or connection with themselves to know what signs and symptoms mean. Okay. Which is why, like what you mentioned, that like your body will let you know. We shouldn't minimize anything that we notice in our body, but most of us are so disconnected because we're moving so quickly that felt sense is lost. Right. And so when you think about vicarious trauma, I know we talked about how that looks like reoccurring, distressing things that, most of us are going to be susceptible to. If you're on social media, you know, right? Yeah. Like if you engage in a lot of gossip and you hear a lot of things, there are a lot of things that give space for that to have happen. It doesn't mean that everyone will experience that, but It does mean that if you are, like we mentioned, then your self-care needs to be at a different level consistently to be able to hold that level of distress or challenge on an ongoing basis. And so compassion fatigue, that's present when you're not as invested, you're more irritable, you don't enjoy the things that you once enjoyed. Like if I had compassion fatigue as a therapist, I wouldn't look forward to seeing my clients. I would, be counting down every minute or things like that. But that's not the case. But you have to be reflective, I think, doing self-care assessments on different parts of your life, which I think we're going to have that in the chat because I did send that. So you guys can kind of look at different areas of your life, engage. Am I doing this poorly? Does it feel off balance? Can I do a little bit more? That should be ongoing to help you protect yourself and say, you know what, how much have I taken in lately?
Yeah. Like, am I really enjoying this?
Yeah. And I think that'll help you safeguard against some of those things. But self-care is definitely a good antidote to both of those topics.
Okay. Well, you had something to say? You're jumping in? Okay.
No, I don't think so. Okay.
I didn't want to interrupt. So, as we kind of wrap up here, I'm going on the record saying we're going to have Self-Care Tuesday episode. Part 2, because I think we need to get a little bit more deeper in this. I'm not the therapist or the licensed professional, but I do know what people are struggling with. Yeah. We had a couple of episodes just this past weekend, and there's some of the things that you all are saying. If you're out there, we need your comments. All right, your questions. Put them in the comment. Put your questions, or you can email pastorpetty@brownbaptist.org. We've got to keep everything, safe and secure, but we need those comments. We need to know some things that maybe you've seen, some things that are some challenges, questions you may have, so they can actually answer these questions for us, because we want to, minister to the whole person. Yeah. So in closing, in the last 30 seconds, Jessica Square, do you have anything?
I would say between now and Self-Care Tuesday 2, be thinking of things that you truly enjoy. Okay. Making a note of those things and practicing them more.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think we would love questions. So like if you're like, I don't know where to start, I really want to be more engaged with myself and self-care feels foreign to me. All I know is taking care of other people. Send us a message and we'll spend time, kind of answering and offering that as we can. But just remember, you are deserving of taking care of yourself and that you deserve to be happy doing the things you enjoy.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, thank you all so much for spending time with us. Timeout Tuesday, Self-Care Tuesday. This is Pastor P, Brown everywhere. So we want to share the gospel everywhere. We will see you next time.